free school with debt, student debt. Andrew and I believe that in America you should not be punished for the crime of getting a higher education. And Andrew understands that instead of giving tax breaks to billionaires, we're going to fund education and make sure that teachers receive a living salary. And when we talk about decent wages, Andrew GILLUM also understands that it is absurd that women in America make 80 cents on the dollar compared to men. Equal pay for equal work. And when we talk about women's rights, Andrew also understands that it is not the government, whether it's state or federal, that you control a woman's body. It is a woman. And Andrew understands something else that is enormously important. He understands that it is an international embarrassment that the United States of America is the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care to all people as a right. It is beyond comprehension to me, beyond comprehension, that you got billionaires running this state who could allow some 700,000 or 800,000 Floridians not to see an extension of Medicaid. But we have got to do even better than that. And we are going to continue the fight for a Medicare for all single-payer program. Understands not only that climate change is real, he understands the extraordinary potential for Florida to be a leader in moving us to sustainable energy. In case you guys haven't noticed, your state is called the Sunshine State. And it is called the Sunshine State for a reason. You got a lot of sun. And we in Vermont would like to borrow some of that sun occasionally. But you have extraordinary potential right here in this state to lower people's electric bill, to strike a real blow against climate change, and to create many, many good-paying jobs. Andrew will help move this state. Now, I understand that President Trump is visiting your state tonight.
Oh, God.
And I am more than aware that Mr. Trump in 2016 won this state. But I want to say a word to some of the folks who may have voted for him in 2016. And I can understand why people voted for him, because he said some things that actually made sense. But we know now what we didn't know then, and that is that Trump is a pathological liar. And it really doesn't matter what he says, because that has nothing to do with his reality. So to those folks who voted for Trump and are thinking of voting for Mr. DeSantis, I want to say the following. In 2016, you may recall that Donald Trump said, if elected president, I'm going to guarantee health care to everybody. You remember that? Yeah. Well, not quite the case. Instead of guaranteeing health care to everybody, Trump and DeSantis moved forward to throw 32 million people off of the health care that they have. And we ended up the late John McCain. And for the elderly people in Florida who may have heard Mr. Trump say he is going to take on the pharmaceutical industry and lower prescription drug costs, I ask the seniors in Florida, take a look at your prescription drug costs. They have soared over the last 2 years. Trump lied on prescription drugs. During his campaign, Mr. Trump said he is a different type of Republican. He is not going to cut Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. Remember that? Well, he lied again, because his last budget, which we were able to push aside, his last budget called for $1 trillion cut in Medicaid, $500 billion cut in Medicare, and a $72 billion cut in the Social Security Trust Fund. Trump said during his campaign that he may be a multi-billionaire, but he is going to take on the establishment. Well,
He is the establishment.
Again, he appointed more billionaires to his administration than any president in American history. Trump said during his campaign that he was going to fight for tax reform which would not benefit the wealthy. Lied again. 83% of the benefits of his tax bill go to the top 1%.
Trump's a liar and a crook!
Amen.
Our job is to understand a few important things. And that is, number one, Republicans win when voter turnout is low. And we're going to change that in this election. Number two, please understand why in the front page of the USA Today, they're talking about voter suppression in minority areas. See, if your political view is tax breaks for billionaires and cutting programs for the elderly and the children and the sick and the poor, you don't win elections. The way they win elections is by making it harder for people to vote. All right? And your job right now, as never before, is not only for you to vote, it's to bring out your friends and your neighbors and your family members. You do not want to wake up next Wednesday and find that you have another reactionary governor in the state of Florida. Now, the other thing, though, that we have got to do as a people in Florida, in Vermont, and all across this country, is we have got to think big and not small. We have got to ask ourselves, as the wealthiest nation on earth, where we want to go as people. We have got to look at our campaign and election system, and I believe conclude that it is corrupt. That there is something not only wrong when you have Republicans all over this country trying to suppress the vote, but you got a handful of billionaires like the Koch brothers and others who are spending in this campaign hundreds of millions of dollars to elect candidates who represent the wealthy and the powerful. And what we have got to do together is to make certain that democracy in America does not mean billionaires buying elections. It means one person, one vote. It means overturning this disastrous Citizens United Supreme Court decision. And it means moving to public funding of elections so that anybody in this room who wants to run for office will be able to do so, even if they're not a millionaire. And that's the direction we have to go. And as a nation, we have got to ask ourselves, not only is our political system corrupt, we have an economy today which has more income and wealth inequality than any other major country on earth. Are we satisfied with the 3 wealthiest people in this country owning more wealth than the bottom half of America? And meanwhile, we have the highest rate of childhood poverty of almost any nation on earth, and we have veterans sleeping out on the streets all over this country. Are we happy that we have a situation in which the top 1/10 of 1% owns more wealth than the bottom 90%? Where 40% of all new income goes to the top 1%. And what Mayor Gillum understands, and will fight for in Tallahassee, is a government that represents all of the people, not just wealthy. You guys have the potential to make history. The entire country is looking at Florida. There is a reason why Trump is here today. The country is looking at Florida because they are deathly afraid, because the Republicans are deathly afraid that Gillum is going to win. Your job is to help bring about their worst nightmare. Elect Andrew Gillum. And Andrew also understands that in Florida and in Vermont and all over this country, we have a criminal justice system which is broken. We have more people in jail than any other country on earth. And what Andrew understands, it is more important to invest in jobs and education for our young people rather than jails and incarceration. And Andrew understands that it is not the American way to demonize immigrants. What Trump does every day. And Andrew will work with me to protect the young people in the DACA program and to move toward comprehensive immigration reform. It is no secret, I trust, that I disagree with Donald Trump on virtually everything, whether it's the economy, healthcare, immigration, climate change. I disagree, but I want to say this from the bottom of my heart, and that is what Trump is trying to do in this country today for a president is unprecedented. Generally speaking, when somebody becomes president of the United States, whether you are a conservative or a liberal or whatever you may be, you understand that when you get to the Oval Office, your sacred duty as a president is to bring the American people together. Whether you are black or white or Latino, Native American or Asian American, we are all Americans. Whether you are a male or a female, whether you are gay or straight, we are all Americans. Now everybody here understands that the history of America contains incredibly positive and wonderful moments. In so many ways, we have been a leader in the world. But our history also contains moments and aspects that have not been positive. You all remember that when the settlers first came here, the terrible things they did to the Native American people.
Yeah.
You all know that.
Yeah.
And I don't have to explain to anybody here the abomination of slavery and segregation and racism. And all of you know that in America 100 years ago, women were third-class citizens. Women not only did not have the right to vote, they couldn't go to a university like this. They couldn't go out and get the job of their choice. They were third-class citizens. And all of you know that our gay brothers and sisters have to deny their sexuality because of a great fear of harassment, of what people might think of them. You all know that throughout the history of this country, there has been terrible discrimination against Asian Americans, against Catholics, against Jews, against Italians, against the Irish, you name it. That's the bad news. But here is the good news. That throughout our history, going back to the very beginning, there were incredibly brave people of all races and all backgrounds who stood up and explained that we have a common humanity, that we are in this together no matter what the color of our skin is or where we come from. That all of us want to see our kids have good health care, good education, and drink clean water, and have good lives. It doesn't matter whether you're a Muslim, a Christian, or a Jew, that is your aspiration. So I say to Donald Trump, who for cheap political points has been trying to divide us up, getting us to hate Muslims or immigrants or whatever it may be, we have suffered too much in the history of our country from all forms of discrimination. Mr. Trump, whether you like it or not, we are not going backwards, we are going forward. This is an unprecedented moment in American history, it truly is. And each and every one of you has got to respond in an unprecedented way. That means not only voting, it means really going after your friends. Tell them you're sick and tired of hearing their jokes about Trump. This is no time for jokes. This is a time to stand up, fight back, and vote. So I am asking you, and I'm begging you, they got 6 days left in this election. Please do everything that you can, not only for you to vote, but for everybody you know to vote. If the voter turnout is high, you are going to elect a wonderful human being as the next governor of this state. So let's get to work and elect Andrew GILLUM, the next governor.